So, hello and welcome to another episode of Engage with E-commerce. Today we're going to be talking about the 80-20 rule and how it applies to e-commerce and in particular your business. Today I'm joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Eloise Finch. Hello, Eloise.
Hey guys, nice to see you all. I'm Eloise, I'm CEO of Sell Beyond. We're a multilingual marketing agency. We focus on helping brands grow on Amazon in French, German, Spanish, Italian, Dutch and English.
It gets better every time. And I'm Nathan Lomax, co-founder of Quickfire Digital. We're an e-commerce focused digital transformation agency. We help clients maximize efficiency, profitability and scalability through the use of tech. So today, Eloise, we're going to talk about the 80-20 rule and how it applies. The focus of today's session will be around the Pareto Principle and where it originated from. How does this apply to those that are listening? Where are you making most of your money? How we can 80-20 your website. So I'll be talking a bit about that. And also you'll be jumping in there with some Amazon tips and tricks of how you can 80-20 your Amazon listing. Then we'll talk about choosing the right activity. And that's going to be a really interesting section there to say, actually, how do we remove any emotion behind it and make sure we're doing everything with the goal in mind? And then finally, a little bit about take action. It's all well and good talking the talk, but sometimes we have to walk the walk as well. And so a bit of housekeeping.
Yeah. So those of you who are on the Zoom, if you get to the end of the webinar and you close your Zoom, you'll be invited to fill in a survey. Always want to know how we're doing. If you'd like to set up a call with either Nathan or myself to look through your e-commerce strategy, your Amazon strategy, Amazon listings, have a website audit, just select that option, make your choice, and we'd love to help you in any way.
Perfect. Thank you. And so let's start with what is the Pareto Principle. Now, Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto came up with this concept, and it was all around the land in Italy. Essentially, 80% of the land, as you can see here, was owned by 20% of the people. And actually, when you start to extrapolate further, you realize that 80% of the world's wealth is controlled by 20% of the people, which is a really scary fact. Now, Eloise, you've read the 80-20 book quite recently. What are your thoughts?
80% of the people that talk about the Pareto Principle have not read the book. But the important thing is to know that the real point is 80% of the outcomes will come from 20% of the efforts. We are looking for the wins that make a difference, and we want to avoid busy work. That's fundamentally what the 80-20% principle goes through in excruciating detail. We're here to give you the quick fix that will make the difference, right? Why read the book when you get me and Nathan to walk you through the ideas?
It's like an improved version of Blinkist. You can just condense all your books just here and now. So I think it's really important, though, that actually, yeah, there are some shortcuts you can take and some hurdles you can overcome pretty quickly. But for me, it's all around how can we stop being perfectionists as a marketing community. A lot of what we do, and as business owners as well, everything that goes out has to be absolutely perfect. And we don't think that actually 80% of this stuff probably will generate no revenue. And so actually, can we try and pull the trigger a bit more effectively while not obviously compromising on quality? And it's a real fine line between not just putting out anything, but at the same time, over procrastinating. And before you know it, you're not doing anything at all.
Absolutely. Or there are so many choices you can make in digital marketing. There are so many choices you can make in Amazon and in what you do, the promotions you run, the ads you run, the people you target, that you can end up choosing too many things when you really need to choose one and focus on it. And so that's also about making the right choices and looking at the target, putting the trigger on the right target.
I think that's super important. And so we start with how to 80-20 your e-commerce strategy, because typically those that will be tuning into the show will be focused on e-commerce, right? And actually there's a load of different ways we can 80-20 your e-com strategy. Top level, 80% of your sales will probably come from 20% of your visitors, or 80% of your sales will come from 20% of your products. In terms of the Amazon world, Eloise, I guess that's very much the same.
It is, absolutely. I think the book goes into a lot of detail about how oftentimes companies will think the more products they have, the more they're segmenting the market, the more they can attract different sectors. But we all know that there are some that are always going to be the key, and that you want to make sure you're doing the best job you can on those ones before you worry too much about mopping up the rest. And that would certainly be the case, for example, on a platform like Amazon. Maybe if you've got a few dozen products online, you need to know which are the top sellers, which need budget allocated to them, to make sure that you drive the most revenue from those, and treat those as your stallions, as your racehorses, and because they're the ones that are going to make the most difference, and probably they're going to make the most profit as well.
The one thing I found really terrifying actually is as you dig into this more and more, it becomes more and more apparent. So it wasn't just top level, 80% of your return on investment comes from 20% of your activity. It was so granular, like 80% of the locations within analytics were driving, 20% of the locations were driving 80% of the sales. And then it was just like, oh gosh, this is going all the way down into 20% of my landing pages are getting 80% of the results, and 20% of my ad copy or page itself is getting 80% of the click-throughs. Like, it's ridiculous.
It is absolutely ridiculous. And I think the reason why I did a Google search when we were researching this earlier in the week, 80-20 your e-commerce is a very, very common blog that a lot of e-commerce agencies have, because it seems so logical, right? We know there's a small proportion of things that make a big proportion of difference. The question that we're going to look at today is actually how. Let's give you some actions to try and make some difference to your e-commerce operations.
So if I just go from here, you can see here, where are you making your most money? I'm really interested.
That's a big question, Nathan. Where are we making our most money? Because you've already got everything to look at here. Right?
So for me, it's about when we're looking at our clients, it's okay, I really want them to start looking at what are their top products purchased, because too often we just take this data for granted, and we bang on every show about how important data is and how you must have a handle on the numbers and everything else. But nobody really seems to understand their best sellers. But not their best sellers necessarily in terms of volume, like that's one thing, but actually best sellers in terms of margin, best sellers in terms of time of the year, etc., etc. But nobody really focuses.
Stop there, Nathan. Why do you think that is? Let's jump out and have a look at this, because I think it's really key. Every company should have, they will know someone has an Excel sheet with this data on. And I've had an experience recently with one of my clients where, yes, they knew intuitively, and yes, they had sales figures, but then it turned out that their Amazon reporting versus their inventory reporting was out. So I was like, we can't even start to go forward until we've got these numbers. So what's your experience? Why do people know but they don't know?
I think it's, if I'm really honest, I think it's laziness. I think it comes down.
Oh, you're harsh. It's harsh.
No, I'm a harsh taskmaster, but no, I that's maybe a little unfair, but I do think a little bit is laziness in terms of the data's there. You just can't be bothered to go and get it. And you can't be bothered to go and get it because maybe you want to follow your hunch. Maybe you like to think something different, or maybe you just don't understand analytics, and that's absolutely fine. And if you took anything from the last few weeks, it would be just invest in yourself, get yourself on a course, understand your numbers and metrics, because that can make all the difference. But I think, the main thing is maybe analytics isn't always set up. The amount of times I'm talking to a client or a prospect and I say, okay, let's have a look at analytics, let's see what we're doing, let's start looking at those 80-20s, and they go, oh, by the way, we don't actually have access, or our old developer ran off with logins, or we've actually never looked at this stuff. And you just go, okay, you're generating quite a significant amount of revenue here. Why is that? And again,
so we need to establish from the point that to even start to understand where you're making most money, you need to, Google Analytics is going to be a key place to start.
Yeah, definitely. Google Analytics is the holy grail when it comes to tracking 80-20, certainly with your website. It'd be crazy to start making hunches without having the data. And like you said at the start, you're going to have an idea. Of course you are, because you're sat on the shop floor most of the time. You see what products are selling and which ones are going out the door and which ones you're packaging, etc. But actually, just using the data to back that up is so important.
And I think that's a great point, that sometimes companies will have reporting set up where analytics, there's nothing in analytics which is a KPI. So if you don't have the reporting set up where you need to know this stuff, then sure, that's probably why you won't know. Maybe not laziness, but not having thought through how you know what's going on and whether somebody needs to know about it. I'm taking the sympathy. I'm playing good cop today.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're good cop. I'm still calling you out. You're being lazy. Go and find it.
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah, come on. So the other one's around top converting locations. And that's really interesting when you start to look at not only by country, but even by city. And again, weirdly, just before this call, we were looking through a couple of analytics accounts. I was going, this is spooky, like actually spot on. And the frustration when it comes to analytics is sometimes it shows you not set, which skews the figures, which is really annoying. But actually even taking that figure out, you still see that the top 2 or 3 locations are normally equating for 80-85% of the sales, which is good.
let me just understand here. So when you set up Google Analytics, you also have to set up a bunch of things for your e-commerce. It's a different setup, right? You can have log into Analytics, but if you want to know where people are buying from, there's extra stuff you need to, I don't know.
Yeah, you can. It comes as standard to see where people are visiting from, but then there's e-commerce kind of attributes you can add on top. Really interesting that when we're then looking at targeted ads, because the whole thing here isn't because just so we can hone the website, it obviously carries through into all of your marketing. So when you're running a Facebook campaign and you've got X amount of budget, rather than spreading that budget across the UK or across the world, all of a sudden you can go, you know what, we're going to take this 10 grand and we're going to put 5 grand in this territory because we know that's converting really well. And we're going to put 5 grand in this territory. And all of a sudden, then you start to get the incremental growth when you're like, actually, crumbs, if I'd just done this from the start, I could have cut out so much of wasted budget where it was just, oh, we'll just go UK wide because that's sensible. Well, no, the whole point of getting the data is then you can become even more and more and more and more targeted until actually you've got the absolute sweet spot.
No, that's a great point there. So if we have set up analytics properly, we can then start looking at the top converting locations, the top acquisition channels. We can start figure out what's the most important, where do we want to get more sales, where we've already got some.
What can you do in Amazon in terms of looking at top converting locations, or because acquisition channels in Amazon would just be within Amazon themselves, but I don't know if you can see in Amazon in terms of, oh, actually loads of your sales are coming from Suffolk or wherever.
No, you can't see that. You could see where sales were if you pulled a report of who's ordering, if you're on Seller Central. So you certainly could do that way, and it can be very useful to actually just do a breakdown of who is actually ordering your products, because Amazon will let you look, even if they won't necessarily allow you to contact those people. There's a function in Amazon called brand analytics, which allow you to do things like, what did people look at and what did they buy? So their basket rate, their conversion rate. So you can then see, what are people browsing? What do they buy? Do they look at your stuff, and what do they buy afterwards? So that is it's not super helpful in terms of can we concentrate more on, but it will allow you to help you who are the competition we need to beat. Like, who's the most important competition? I was looking at it with a food and drink brand earlier this week, and there were some surprising results. Like for their main sellers, like the 20% that made 80% of the sellers, all they looked on was different flavor variations. For the big guns, once people got big guns, they just bought a different flavor variation. But some of the less important ones, you then start to see they'll go and look at a competitor. It's like it was, a similar thing from a different guy. So it starts to tell you that people love the big stuff. We really want to sell more of it, because if they're comparing, it's just in the flavor range.
Really interesting that actually it's not just e-commerce, of course. Now, while this is an e-commerce show, when you're doing your 80-20 principles, it can go as granular as the articles that you're posting, or sometimes some of the web pages or landing pages you're creating. And that to me is really important, that it doesn't just stop at e-commerce. We've talked about acquisition channels, locations, maybe discount codes, but there's actually so much more that the 80-20 can help you understand and then make you realize where you need to spend more of your budget.
Absolutely. And this comes back to, how do we spot the most important trends? And then this is where emotion comes into it, because some of us are very attached to certain product lines, certain channels, certain things. And actually, no, this is where we have to be disciplined, or actually probably have a big argument with people in our organization and hammer out where we think the growth opportunities are, through the data. So if we want to identify the 20% of our website that counts, what are your hot tips?
It's a very good question. So for me, 80% of your website is just noise.
Oh, that's painful. Ouch. I spent ages crafting those beautiful blog posts. Well, fantastic.
Maybe I'm in a bad mood. Maybe I'm in a bad mood. That is, I've woken up on the wrong side.
No one cares. My logo, yeah. No one cares, right?
80% of it is just noise, right? It's just pretty pictures and text. And I get that. But at the same time, that's why we need to look at analytics, look at Hotjar, look at things like that, and see actually where is the real activity happening. And normally it will be on a particular part of the product page, or a particular part of the homepage, or a particular part of the cart, etc. So let's really double down and focus on those. Yes, we can worry about the FAQs page and the about page and the terms pages and all that good stuff, but actually, is it driving revenue? And that's one thing I want you all to take away from this. When you're making business decisions, does it drive growth or revenue? If that's the goal or outcome you're looking to achieve. And for most of you listening, I guess it is. So is it driving revenue? Do I need to spend my time here? And is there a business case for spending time here and money here as opposed to doing something else? So that's the first thing. The second thing is then let's start asking ourselves some questions. Which pages are being visited? Is it actually that people are going on a very simple funnel, home, product, checkout, finish? Or actually are they going home, about, over to FAQs, back to home, etc., etc. So let's start looking at what pages are getting the most traffic. Then we can start seeing where to focus our time. As we talked about earlier, let's think about articles. What articles are being read? Which ones aren't? How can we get those that are most important to the journey to feature first?
So I've got an example. So one of my Amazon clients, we're also helping them with their website, and they have a brand that's quite well known. So people don't actually land on home at all. The most popular page is one of their branded product pages. So people search for the brand and the product, bang, straight on the product page. And there's no cross-sell or upsell on that product page. It's just simply one of the products. Presumably that's where, if everybody's coming to that page first because they know the main product and they know the brand, that's what you should be focusing on, not the homepage. Would that be an example?
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. I think too often some people, particularly when you're driving ads, will go for, okay, we'll send them to the most generic place possible because we want to try and capture their interest and we're a bit insecure about whether this product is actually right for them. Remember, when you're creating an ideal customer profile, when we spoke to Rebecca Johns a few shows ago, she was saying that actually a lot of it is a bit of an assumption until you've got the data. And so too often I see people going, oh, let's just do a catch-all because we're a little bit concerned. Therefore, we'll just send them to the home and we'll let them work it out. Like, newsflash, if you make people work it out, they'll get bored and they'll go elsewhere. So how can we take them to the chosen destination as quickly as possible, just like your example there? And then actually, how can we minimize distraction? Because when they're in the purchasing mode, they've put in that keyword or phrase, which in this case sounds like an exact product. Who's going to type that in if they're not interested in purchasing it? No one's going to go there just to have a look at it. Like, if you're going to waste your time to we call it like a long tail keyword or phrase. If someone's going to put in a long tail keyword or phrase, 4 or 5 words of a product, then crumbs, they've got to be fairly interested. That's almost to me like a bit of buying intent. And then I would think about, okay, how can I get them very quickly through the process as quickly as possible? So cards out, paid, it's in the basket, it's on the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So after that painful admission that 80% of the website is noise, and we have to just focus on the bits that people actually do, and there are lots of tools that we can do for that we've seen in other shows. Where else are we going in terms of the 20% of our website that counts?
Well, just to caveat that point, like, I'm not for one moment saying never look at the about page or never look at the story or never look at the team page or anything like that.
This is a show about simple is beautiful, Nathan.
Yeah. I'm absolutely
Stop looking at that stuff. It's noise.
What I am saying is, if you're going to spend serious investment so you've had your website built, that's great. You're now going to spend improvements and investments improving conversion. Those are the pages I would focus on, the kind of, a product page, cart page, product category page, checkout, maybe home, etc., etc. The most commonly used pages. Now, the other thing we can, of course, look at is menu options. And this one's really interesting to me because so many people either will chuck everything in the top menu or they will chuck everything in a footer menu, 9 times out of 10 in the same color as the footer, which does my head in. Why people do that, I don't know. So many people have a blue footer with blue text.
That's so harsh this afternoon. Oh my God, Nathan, I'm sorry. I just thought it was a good idea at the time.
I'm really riled.
I was my designer. Like, what can I say?
I'm rattled. So yeah, think about what pages, think about what products. And as I said earlier, not just the products that you enjoy packaging, not just the products that you're happy selling, not just the products that, are easy to kind of send to the customers, the products that actually make margin. That's what we want to focus on. The products that actually make a real difference and not just something that you like or you like the supplier. That is just crazy.
It's a growing range.
Right? I'm off my high horse and finish with how much your website supports your outcome. Set your goals, set your outcomes, then see what parts of the website or components of the website are driving that activity. But actually, time for me to calm, time to go back to you. Talk us through Amazon.
Now I feel really anxious. You're going to slam in with me. Well, okay, I'm going to go in there. So the thing I want to show you, if you've given me is a couple screens. Anyone remember this page? If you've got Amazon Seller Central, where there are so many fancy things you can do nowadays, I recommend we go back to looking at manage inventory. When you set up your listing, however long ago it was, we had to create the SKU, we had to create the inventory page. And when was the last time you looked at that? Like the 20% that will make 80% of the difference is your product page set up correctly in a way that optimizes for Amazon SEO, that has the right pictures. And I just want to go into the next little bit of the menu. Anyone remember this bit? This is vital info. There's a reason why they call it vital info, because it's pretty important. Keywords, these are pretty important as well. And often when I go in and help a company that is working on trying to improve its Amazon, oh, excuse me, try again, bad screen share here. Where we should go. I am having yeah, that didn't work out at all. Keywords. Keywords is something where if you haven't got into your inventory for a while, go and look whether the listing is set up correctly, whether all of the things are filled in, and whether you or your copywriter or your marketing person or your freelancer has actually put in the back-end keywords that help people that search for something on the Amazon search bar see your listing. It's a no-brainer starter for 10, but it actually makes a massive difference. One of the companies that I worked with last year was an energy product, let us say, and they weren't allowed to put hangover in the title of their listing in Amazon, but we know that people look for hangover remedy on Amazon. So we had to put it in the back-end keywords where you can't really see it and you're not making any claims about it, but if people search for hangover remedy, then they'll probably find it. Once we put that in the back-end keywords, it improves sales. So don't underestimate that the inventory section is not sexy. You did it ages ago. Go back now, because getting that into shape will do a lot for making sure you're completely set up.
Eloise, that's invaluable. Thank you. I'd like to share with you the next part of this, which is around choosing the right activity. And we touched upon that a little bit just now, but too often when we're choosing activity, we kind of carry this almost unintentional emotional bias where we just think, oh, I'm going to do this because I really love putting tweets together. I absolutely love tweeting and I think it's so fun that I'm just going to do that with my day rather than actually what's going to drive growth.
I'm going to come back at you, Nathan, because I think that
Twitter.
There's also another danger as well, and it says it in the book. It's people that think they have to work really hard, and I don't know if you and I know anybody like that. And it says in the book that we're all very influenced by, we have to work hard to get places and we have to work really hard. And the book says, just be lazy. Stop trying to think you've got to do everything, work really hard, get 100%. No, be lazy, just do the 20% that matters. I find that quite hard to deal with as an anxious overachiever, but I did take note from the book that if you're lazy and just do the 20%, but do it really, really well, that's going to be better by trying to do everything. So that's what that slide's about. So rather than say stop doing Twitter, and they stop working so hard.
I find it yeah, I would
love, looking anxious already. I can't believe it.
I would love to. This is actually bringing me up in a rash. Like, I would love to think about how I could 80-20 my life, let alone the business. But actually, for some people, that's going to become really hard, right? Because for a lot of people, the business is their baby, and they've taken this from its infancy all the way through, and now they're starting to think, okay, now you're telling me to step back and actually delegate, or perhaps just focus on the stuff that drives revenue. And I think that's a big thing, I think, is that when people actually find out what that 20%, when they actually understand it, maybe there's a bit of blissful ignorance.
They're all the ones that have, well, when they understand it, they're all the ones that have islands on in the Caribbean, right? They belong to them.
But I think that actually when people actually find out what drives the revenue and growth, that's when people go, okay, actually now I need to focus on that. Like for me, I love, part of the thing that motivates me is actually doing lots of different things, because you get a change, especially working from home. Like you're sat at home, you're having to work in your little homemade office.
In your pajamas.
Yeah, exactly. And you just actually, I like doing a bit over here and a bit over there, a bit over there. And that's a really hard thing to come out of, is actually, but it's not for you. Yeah, this is, in this case, for the business. Is it right for the business, despite it being maybe not right?
It's really hard choices. It's really hard choices. But I think that when we look at especially the data and the marketing data and these stuff for e-commerce, lazy is okay if we do lazy well, right?
I think the challenge as well is what happens when there's other people in the organization and they're pushing things. So it's one thing you being able to control your own emotions, and we always say this about control the controllables, and that's great. But what happens if someone
my emotions are certainly not controllable, Nathan? I know, mate. theoretically, control the control.
Yeah, so what about if a superior or a leader or a business owner or someone is telling you to do something, but you know in your heart of hearts that that isn't the 20% that drives the revenue, you're just doing it because the owner has heard from some webinar they once upon a time watched that you should be doing X activity. How do you combat that?
That's all right. That comes from the book Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It. We'll cover that on another show, Nathan. I've got answers to that. But that's next month's webinar.
The book wizard, the art of negotiation. So in terms of task prioritization, that's another one I'd like to look at when it comes to choosing the right activity. How do you prioritize tasks?
Okay, are you asking me or are we going to the slide?
I'm definitely asking you, and then I'm going to share this slide while I'm asking. How do you personally prioritize tasks?
If I'm working with a client, and we're not talking about me here, Nathan, because that would just be too ugly. If I'm working with a client, we have to get the accurate data about where sales are going on Amazon and look at it in the cold light of day and say, where are we going to put the marketing money? Where are we going to put the budget? And what actually counts? And sometimes that means that we can't do everything at once and that we have to focus on the top 10 or the top 5 and just do that. So for me, you've got list your tasks for today. If I have an engagement with a client, we've got list the tasks for the month. We can't just go in and do willy-nilly. And that's sometimes the difference if you're working with, I'm sure you'd agree, more inexperienced companies. They might want to try and do everything already. You go out to some freelancers or some people that don't have much experience. They're like, yeah, we'll do everything for you immediately. We just want to please. And then, you're in a really good company where you say, no, we're not going to do that for you now. No, it's like, eat your greens first.
So I always talk to our clients around a marginal evolution diary.
Oh my gosh, really?
I mean, doesn't that sound complex? But actually, it's really
Is that before or after cocktails?
Yeah, exactly right. But it all comes down to something. Basically, we talk about change. Most people get frightened by the sound of change. And so actually that's from one of our coaches that we both work with, Phil. He always tells about that concept, right? And so we started calling it a marginal evolution diary. The main thing I'm trying to get across to people is that big changes, significant changes don't happen overnight. Like just because you want to double down on your 80-20, you want to focus on your product page, don't expect that tomorrow life's going to change and all of a sudden your product page is rocking. So just take some incremental steps or marginal gains, as I like to call them. Again, thinking about those sports analogies, and so Dave Brailsford and Team Sky and the What Will Make the Boat Go Faster. That's another great book around
getting good pillows for your athletes to sleep on.
Like all these things. What tiny little things can we keep doing in the business? And actually, let's take it away from.
That's the hard thing, right? It's got to be the thing between the tiny little things, but the 20% of tiny little things that are going to make a difference, right?
This is it. So, okay, how can we focus on the marginal gains? But how can we focus on the marginal gains that are the 20% of the marginal gains?
I think.
So that to me is really important, and actually starting to think about, working smarter rather than harder. I mean, during COVID, I'm sure, and this is quite a personal share, but I'm sure a lot of people would have found that they thought that the solution was just to jump in the trenches and just start fighting. And that's, I'm sure, what a lot of you listening here would have done. You would have just panicked, and that's okay. That's perfectly normal. And then you would have thought, okay, the way to get out of this is for us to just work harder. We'll work harder and we'll overcome it, and we'll bring in just as many leads as we did before, and we will sell as many products. And actually, sometimes there are things out of our control, and sometimes we can do things like that, but it will be the detriment of something else. So you might be working harder than you've ever worked, but that might be at the detriment of family time or personal health or all sorts of different things. So,
and all of the above. I think we all know lots of business owners that work 3 times as hard during lockdown. Did it make a difference? Well, that's, maybe there are people that are now thinking maybe it's time for some holiday, because really, frankly, you can't flog yourself all the time.
It's almost tomorrow. So yeah, it's really important that people start to understand what works and what doesn't. They then hone in on the stuff that works, that 20%, just double down on that, and then allow yourself some free time and start to think to yourself, why did you set the business up in the first place? Why are you doing what you're doing?
Let's get that slide up, because I think one of the things I've added to that thing on point number 3 is something that I got from the book. So list your tasks for today or the month or whoever. Focus what isn't driving on growth. And in the 80-20 principle, the word was ruthless, and I really loved it. So you had said ruthless. I think delegate, and they also talk about ruthlessly outsourcing. And I think that's really important, that to do this really well, you have to be ruthless and make choices. You delegate what is driving growth, what's important, delegate or outsource what you don't want to do, what isn't a good use of your time. And then, you and I know, Nathan, that I've been working with some companies that want to grow on Amazon, and the business owner's like, what I need to do is make commercial relationships with the supermarkets right now. Amazon is important, don't want to learn how to do it, don't have the time to do it. That business leader has just decided to ruthlessly outsource it. He doesn't want to get involved, and that's fine as long as he and I have good conversations. And this is the point, that we have to be really, really hardline when it comes to the 80% that we don't need to do.
And that's a really hard decision for any business owner, because normally it impacts revenue, right? And I always compare this to the games of snakes and ladders, where sometimes you have to go a step backwards in terms of revenue to go two forwards. So just think about, well, certainly in terms of profit, because the amount of times we as a business as well will be trying to live along, making good margins, then all of a sudden we need to invest or pivot or do something, and it feels like, what, now we've sucked out all our profit here, but actually what we're doing is we're investing so that then in a little while, we can then go further forwards. And so really important when you're delegating, yes, at the start, or outsourcing, yes, at the start it may be painful. Make sure you're delegating and not dumping. And that's something I see all too commonly, is the whole, here's a task, never check up on it, never talk about it, just kick off when it doesn't work out. Like, actually, that's on you, not on the person you gave it to. So take some responsibility. I'm getting back angry again.
Yeah. I was talking to a business owner yesterday, and he was saying, what would it take for us to work together? And I said, we can only work together if you take responsibility for the fact you hired me. Because it's true, right? We have to have a dialogue where, as an outsourced marketing partner, you have to take responsibility to have calls with me, because otherwise that's not properly delegating. You're not properly outsourcing. You're just running away and not really deciding what you want to do and what you don't want to do.
I think it's hard for businesses now, because if you put people on
Nathan's gone all soft now, it's hard.
You put people on furlough, and all of a sudden you end up doing 3 or 4 different roles, some of which you may have actually hired for, so you stopped having to do that stuff, and you feel like a bit of overwhelm. And that's the big thing. We talked about that just before we came on, right? The easy thing with all of this is that you take it all on yourself, because there's another great book around how you take on all the monkeys on your back, and you take on all these different tasks, and before you know it, you're drowning, right? You just, I can't cope because there's all this stuff going on. And so actually sometimes it's time just to sit down, scrap a paper. And I actually do this every time I feel like it's a little bit too much. I just get out a big A3 piece of paper, some felt tips or a whiteboard, and just write down every single thing that I've got to do or should be doing or would like to be doing. And then you start
after 12 hours and you've got writer's cramp.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm like, I need more whiteboard. And then you just go, okay, well, actually, let's cross that one out. That's ridiculous. So actually, that's a 30-second task. Let's just get that done. And sometimes you get that information overload or paralysis where you're like, I just don't know where to start. Like, what the hell? And there's another book. God, it sounds like we're really intelligent then. It's called Eat That Frog. And I really enjoyed reading that, because too many people will put off the difficult decision to the end of the day. We'll get around to that. I'll do that one in a minute. I'll do that. No. First thing you do, get up, eat the frog, do the difficult thing, and then the rest of the day becomes...
Now, I have an issue with Eat the Frog.
Go on.
Because Eat the Frog, great book, eat the difficult task. The thing I actually do now is I'm like, what is the 20% task that will make the 80% difference? Nice. And that's the first thing I do. And I actually do. I have a little one of those like fancy angsty women pads which tells you all the things you should do, and you can add. And I always put the 20% next to my little frog symbol, because it's got to be the one that makes a difference. You can't just do a big frog if it actually doesn't make any difference.
That's really good.
20% your frog, Nathan.
80-20 your frog. No, I like that. That's really cool. And so in terms of today, I appreciate today's session was a bit shorter, but I wanted to talk actually about some of the things we've got coming up in July, because what's really exciting is that we started these in May. Was it May we did our first one?
I think April.
So we're doing them in April, doing them in May, doing them in June. We're still going. And actually July we've managed to secure, and I won't release it just yet, but all I can say is a little teaser, some really exciting names that take this show to the next level. And that to me is really exciting. Now, we've had some wonderful feedback, and it's been really, really humbling to see all your comments and things like that. But actually now we're looking to take it up a notch, and that's really exciting.
You might start wearing ties.
Unlikely. I'm wearing a shirt. I've had a shave. This is massive efforts for me.
Earrings on, yeah.
So if we look at the next webinar, we've got one more this month. And if I just share my screen,
There's been a bunch of sign-ups already, so that's you know, I'm really excited. A lot of people are interested in this one.
Yeah, I think this is going to be good. This is around omnichannel challenges and why you need to start planning for more online sales. Unfortunately, quite a lot of businesses were hit during coronavirus because of their omnichannel approach. And a lot of businesses I came across were solely bricks and mortar. Oh, we've done it like this for years. This is how we've always traded. People will always come into the store. Of course, nobody saw the pandemic coming. And now they think, oh, maybe, just maybe, we should have done things differently. So we'll be talking around omnichannel challenges and how you can't have all your eggs in one basket and how you need to start thinking about the right channels for you in your business, which is going to be really exciting.
Absolutely. And if you're doing digital, how we beat the digital guys at their end game.
25th of June, 3 till 4. That will be awesome to see you all there. As Eloise said at the start, after this webinar finishes, there'll be a great chance to just give some feedback. All feedback is a gift, so thank you. Also think about a free strategy session to talk about your Amazon, or perhaps a free website audit or e-commerce audit with myself to talk about how we can really 80-20 be your business and take it to the next level. But for now, folks, that is it. We'll open this up to Q&A if anyone's got any questions. But I really appreciate you joining us today. Eloise, thank you as always for being a wonderful co-host.
Thank you, lovely.
I hope you've all found it useful, and we look forward to seeing you on the next show.